Welcome back. You're watching the Editors Forum exclusive to Galaxy Television. We have a couple of issues to discuss, but there is cheering news. After spending over 100 days outside the country, we have news now that President Muhammadu Buhari is set to return to the country later today after receiving medical attention in London. Now, the president had left the shores of the country on May the 7th this year after handing over power to his vice president, Yemi Osinbajo, who has since functioned as acting president. According to the statement by Special Advisor on Media and Publicity, Femi Adesina, President Muhammadu Buhari is expected to speak to Nigerians in a broadcast by 7 a.m. on Monday. That's August 24th, 2017. He thanks all Nigerians who have prayed ceaselessly for his recovery and well-being since the beginning of the health challenge. Yesterday, President Muhammadu Buhari received General Overseer Worldwide of the Redeemed Christian Church of God, Pastor Enoch Adejare Adeboye, at the Abuja House in London. Now, Mr. Femi Adesina, the President's Special Advisor on Media and Publicity, made this known on his Facebook page in Abuja on Friday. Adesina also posted some pictures showing President Buhari and Pastor Adeboye during their meeting. You recall that earlier before this meeting, the Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby, had on August 4 paid similar personal visit to President Buhari at the Abuja House in London, where he expressed delight over the president's rapid recovery. You also recall that we saw pictures of President Muhammadu Buhari on Thursday granting audience to Senate President Bukola Saraki and Speaker Yakubu Dogara, who visited him at the Abuja House in London. Now, in a couple of hours, hopefully, we won't just be seeing pictures. We will be definitely having videos of President Muhammadu touching grounds right here in Nigeria. Cheering news indeed for those who expecting him back. Quite a big bad news for those who expected him in body bags, like someone said. I'm not going to disclose their identity. We've also had the Ekiti State Governor saying that he had evidences that the president was in the vegetable state. Now, I told you prior to that time that the Ekiti State Governor has a pedigree of lies. And of course, it happened with the wife of the president when he also had alleged that the wife of the president would not be able to go to the United States of America. You know what happened afterwards? The president's wife did not only go to America, she went back again and again. But I have guests in the building right now. Yemi Saka and Victor Aya joins me again on the show. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for finding time to come.
Good afternoon, for inviting me.
Would you agree that this is cherry news? Of course, the president and his vice have made history. The president has been away from office for over 100 years. But would you consider 100 days? I beg your pardon. Would you consider this a cherry news for Nigerians at this time?
It is indeed a sharing news in many ramifications, in the sense that first, if the president is on seat, things will go the way they are expected. But now that he's not on seat, even though we have an anti-president, he couldn't take certain decision. We should not forget the fact that 3 ministers have been confirmed for a very long time. It was just about 2 days ago that he assigned portfolio to them.
That's right.
Because of issue of cabal that are dictating the pace behind the scene, behind the scene. So now that he's back, all that will be thing of the past. He can now assert his power as the president. Nobody is going to challenge him. That is a sharing news. And again, the issue of huge amount of money being spent on his head, is another thing. That one is going to be conserved too. And again, you have multiple people, governors frequenting, going to visit him every now and then. All that movement, costs money, huge amount of money. And when you consider the exchange rate, about 400 to £1 sterling, that's a big amount of money. And senators are going, governors are going, and even his crew members, those who pilot the plane, they have all been there with him for over 100 days, spending money in hotels. So now that he's coming back, all that will be preserved. So
and
that
then
is why
eventually we're also going to have the presidential jet leave London.
Yes, you just reminded me about that one, because that one has been very painful to me, because for us to be spending £4,000, though they denied it, even though if it is £1,000 daily, that is huge amount of money. So now that he's coming back, all that expenses, you know, will no longer be there, though. So that is a sharing news to me, personally.
It's all right, Control. You can keep the pictures rolling. The one you showed earlier of President Muhammadu Buhari meeting with certain people in London while we continue this conversation. Thank you very much for doing that. Just recently, the Resume or Resign protest was suspended. Would you say that they got a wind of this information?
Well, I can't say for sure what happened or what transpired or what information they were privy to. But I will say this to you, my own take, on a personal level, as a human being, it's a cheering news that the president is coming back alive, not in body bags. And, but we must say the truth and stand by it. Was the situation handled perfectly? Hell no. We saw a lot of misinformation flying around. It didn't stop. We never, out till we speak, we don't know what was wrong with Mr. President. We are not sure, we are not aware of his diagnosis or prognosis. And that is insensitive, that is wrong. I won't say that is criminal, but that is a moral burden on this administration. You ask us, 100 days away from office, and I probably want this executive, if APC government wants to be sincere to us, they need to, as if the Senate, the National Assembly is not thinking of it, and they should show us that they are responsible and responsive and avoid a repetition of this by telling us this is the number of, go to the National Assembly with a bill to cause an amendment of that section of the Constitution for how long the president can be away. We had people believing that the president is a private citizen. He's not a private citizen. Nigeria have expended so much on his well-being. There's nothing criminal about that. He's the president. There's nothing criminal about that. He's the president. We have to do that. But we should do things better. This is an indictment. The last 100 days shows that a lot of things is wrong with this society, with our country. Moving forward, the State House Clinic has got more money, a budget allocation than any teaching hospital across, all the teaching hospitals across the country. What's happening? We have to look at such things. He made a pronouncement, don't step out of this country for treatment. He would make the pronouncement that he doesn't need 11 private jets, that they'll probably start off, they'll revive Nigerian Airways with some crafts in the presidential fleet. These things have not happened. These are moral burdens. Everybody that comes up against the administration, they're subject to moral scrutiny. And this is also the moral scrutiny you subject this administration to. You don't say things and don't stand by your words. It's dishonorable.
Okay, so the expectations are high that President Muhammadu Buhari is expected to return to Nigeria today. But for you as a citizen, a concerned citizen, what do you expect to change? Because prior to this time, we had an acting president who we believe is also, who's been supportive of the president, who's been doing what the president is expected to do if he was president. Do we expect any magical reformation, any magical economic change now that if he returns?
There will be no magical economic change because the APC and the president itself, they are acting at variance. They are not working in agreement. Most of the decisions being taken and actions being carried out by the president, he's carrying them out outside of the manifesto of the APC, because before the election, we were banding with a lot of promises, and that was why people actually keyed into the change mantra with the promise, with the thinking that once the APC, you know, is elected, it will hit the ground running and things will change for the better. But within a period of 3 months, things began to change for the, you know, for the worst, and that is why we find ourselves in the recession we find ourselves in, not because of the previous government, as some people, some ignorant people are made to believe. So his coming back may not change the economic status in any form, but to take active decision. For instance, the service chiefs are supposed to leave office by now. They're supposed to leave office by now, but because the acting president has no power to effect change in that aspect, that's why they are still there. So he's coming now, he has the power to do that, and I know he'll be able to do that. But for the economic situation, I don't see any change coming up.
It's all right, let's bring the viewer in on this discussion. You can be a part of it by sending a text message to the number showing on your screen. It's 0803518 1304. Do not call that line. Send us a text message. Now, when the president eventually comes back, let's move on to our second topic now. He perhaps will be faced with a couple of issues on ground. One of it is the ongoing and definite strike action by ASUU. They have not only declared a total strike action, but they call it a comprehensive and a definite one. And what they're asking for is the implementation of the 2009 and 2013 agreement that they signed with the federal government. Someone will say that this is not Buhari's fault. It's perhaps a carryover effect of what he meant in office. But why is this particular agreement so impossible to achieve? Should we review the agreement? Because it's no longer a function of a political inability now, because we've had it happen across successive governments.
Yeah. Well, as I've said in another forum that I found myself in some time ago, government is continual. You cannot say that it was not this present government that made that agreement, that signed that agreement. For that reason, you will not obey the agreement. In government, when a passive government is going away, you inherit both the deficit, the liability, and the surplus. When this government was coming in, I remember that $2.9 billion was inherited by this government from the sovereign wealth fund, even though they denied that they meant empty treasury. In the foreign reserve, this government inherited $30 billion. It's there. Even the Ambassador himself confirmed it that Buhari inherited $30 billion, but we have been told that they inherited nothing. So if you inherit asset, you should be able to inherit the liabilities. That is how governance is. So they cannot come out and begin to tell us that they were not the one that signed the agreement. That is not acceptable. So as long as the previous government entered into this agreement and they inherited the asset of that government, which the government left behind, they should also inherit the liability. So they have no basis for excuse. And what ASUU is demanding from, there's nothing strange about it. They say the university should be revitalized. We all know the state of our educational system, and that's why the leaders are taking their children out. But should we continue in this manner? The answer is no.
To be fair to the federal government, they are not living in denial. They have never claimed that this is not an issue for them. But perhaps we should go a bit more specific now to look into some of these issues. One of it is non-payment of salaries and what they have called earned academic allowances. At the meeting between the federal government and ASUU on Thursday, one of the positions of the government is that government blamed non-payment of salaries on decision by federal universities to illegally recruit staff without recourse to the integrated payroll and personal information system. You know that prior to this time, there have been issues of staff schools where government had said, no, I didn't create staff school. The universities also has internally generated revenue. They should be able to cater for this by themselves.
Well, that's a valid point. That's a valid argument. But let me take you back, from where it started from. Probably I could lead myself into this discourse. The first thing about this administration is this. You said we should cut them some slacks. Maybe we should renegotiate. The Kaduna Abuja rail line was initiated by President Obasanjo, sustained by President Yar'Adua, vigorously pursued by President Jonathan because we wanted to use it as a campaign, topic. And this administration laid claims and credits by making the rail line functional, that route functional. So they cannot tell me they cannot sustain previous agreement. It is very much of nothing but bullshit. Now, back to this ASUU's agreement and what have you. When we voted this government into office, we were expecting a clear departure from the norm years back of previous administrations. We were expecting ASUU to go on strike. We were expecting them to be more proactive, more sensitive, and reviving university education was one of the cardinal campaign issues of APC. So that for ASUU to have gone on strike twice now is an indictment on them that they can't just live up to their words. Now, you ask yourself questions. You see, I don't want to be critical about this government so much because people might accuse me of having this bias or what have you, or prejudice against this administration. But you look at it. Anytime anybody comes up against this government, is the argument for this government, in front of this government, is not even logical. It's sentimental and emotional. It is resorting to emotional blackmail. You can, it's just a simple thing. There's a friend of mine, is Abdullah Malta, is now the majority leader in Katsina State House Assembly. We met, our path crossed when I came up with a draft of a bill, Public Officers Conduct Bill, which is mandatory for every public office holder to have their children in the public schools, patronize public health institutions. That is only when they will be in tune and be informed about what is really happening there. They know what they need and when they need it. The man was so smart enough and lucky enough. Then he was a minority leader during the PDP era. Now he's a majority leader. He took that, say, his own copy is because we compared notes. His was more robust than mine because he's been in the system. Took it to Governor Masari of Katsina State and told him, I was able to convince him of the need for why his cabinet members should have their children in public schools. If you don't have faith in the system will not work. As long as the President Muhammadu Buhari will leave the shores of this country and get treatments in UK, as long as Senate President Bukola Saraki will send his kids out to study in UK, as long as President Buhari's children studied in UK and even a commissioner will send his kids to Malaysia to study, the universities would not function. They would rather like the university die than bother their head about fixing it.
Victor, perhaps we should privatize the public universities because private universities seem to be doing better. The only challenge is that you have to pay more, but you are not likely to go on strike.
The question is that how many Nigerians
can
will be able to afford
Then what does the government want to do?
So what is left for the government to do?
Let's look at the
impact.
impact.
That means we don't need government. If everybody is a government to himself, you source your own power, you sink your own borehole, which is going to be taxed in some states now. States pay to provide water. Individuals that sink a borehole, they are going to be fixed. There's a law in some states now where they will fix meter to their pumping machine and they'll be taxing them. You provide security for yourself. So what is left for government? That means we don't need government.
Let's take this.
We don't need government.
Message from Mississippi in Lagos. Gardeners should be a continuous affair. So this regime should not claim that they are not the ones who, that entered into the agreement in 2009. They should do what is agreed on. Of course, the government has never, to my best of knowledge, this current administration has never complained or made such claim that they did not enter into that agreement. Perhaps they are saying quite a number of other things. One of which is that ASUU is asking for the balance of 23 billion naira and allowances. Now, what the government is saying now is that they need to do a forensic audit of the 30 billion naira that was initially released. The challenge here is that it will take them 6 months. It will take the Minister of Finance 6 months to undertake that particular audit. Now, they are telling ASUU now that they will pay 1.5 billion naira for each of those months while the audit is on. Would you say this is a fair bargain?
It is not a fair bargain in the sense that you cannot hold the school spellbound, cannot hold them, to ransom simply because audit has not been given. You can conduct audit on your own. So should the school suffer because audit has not been carried out? To me, it's not a wise decision.
No, the idea here is that ASUU will call off the strike while the audit is
Sorry, I want to ask you a question. Whose function or duty is it to carry out the audit?
Oh, it's the
Minister of Finance. So who's responsible for negligence of duty? ASUU?
But then the question is,
the question is, if you guys have done your job very well, you don't need to bring this as a bargaining chip to the table. It's ridiculous.
But how effective has these incessant strikes be? I mean, because I'm also thinking of working smart on the part of ASUU. I mean, we've had decades of strikes here and there. That has not really given us results. Would you say that the leadership of academic university staff are not thinking smart?
Sorry, I can comment. It's not that the leadership of academic are not thinking smart. This just says that successive government has the same attitude towards education in this country.
But then we can't keep doing the same thing the same way and expect a different result. Because what's going to happen now is that they are going to suspend this strike and then give them a couple of years. We're going to get back to it. It's a cycle.
It's not the fault of ASUU. For instance, the United Nations recommend 26% of annual budget to be allocated for education. What is the annual budget for education in Nigeria? It's about 3%. So is it the fault of ASUU? It is because the government has failed on its own part. That is why ASUU is going. And if you listen to Professor Biodo Oguyeme, the president of ASUU. He said that they have written series of letters, they have called for negotiation, and the federal government refused. Why are they refusing? Because they don't have their children here. If their children are in the university, are sitting at home, are the children of the poor, they will not be behaving the way they are behaving.
Nifemi, to buttress what you said, we keep looking at us when issues like this comes up by people telling that yes, the money that should have been spent on education has been gobbed by the National Assembly. Do you know the recurrent budget for ASUU Rock, the presidency, this year is 22 billion, thereabout naira. The overhead cost is almost 10 billion. Personnel cost, salaries and what have you, is 12 billion. That's just the presidency. Compared to ASUU. I don't know why I'm making any point to you. So it shows you that as long as their side is protected, interest is secure, they don't care.
Let's take a couple of messages. This is from Prosper in Osun State. Thank God the PMB is returning today. I pray that he returns and resign to take proper care of his health and live longer for us. Thank you for your contribution. This is Bush Bedell. Well, thank God that Mr. President is still alive. My question is that, is he coming to stay permanently? Well, I think you're going to get your answer in a couple of hours. Afternoon, I'm Kamal Nasir from Kano. Well, welcome Mr. President to Nigeria and wish him well. We really support him. Okay, there's another welcome message here. Mr. President, welcome back. May God give you long life so that you will continue good governance. That's coming from Joe in Edo. ASUU, according to this viewer, is corrupt too. And that's a very valid point because you need to see how much people pay in universities. Now, you know, prior to this time, there was post-jam. Now I understand that before you even go ahead with the admission, there's screening form. I mean, what is universities? What are universities doing with this huge amount of money? Lautech, for instance, hasn't been open for months. And the issue has been, let's audit the account.
No,
there's a lot of corruption taking place in our universities, but nobody's talking about that.
But Nifemi, that is not enough for you to shy away from your responsibility and duty.
But I'm saying that.
I'm coming. So is it that each time ASUU or these people come to the table, that's when you realize that they are corrupt? You should, there are frameworks, there are legal frameworks, existing frameworks for you to like implement, to know if ASUU is corrupt. There's the Nigerian police, there's a special fraud unit of the Nigerian police. There's EFCC. EFCC wasn't just inaugurated, or EFCC doesn't get activated anytime there's a strike. It's always working 24/7. So why haven't you guys used your initiative, what you call Atinuda, to preempt these actions? Is this only when they come to the table to make a demand and say you guys are corrupt, to blackmail them? It's cheap blackmail.
But my concern, Victor, is that the university is supposed to be the apex of education. And I mean, perhaps I've not seen a lot of thinking and creativity on the part of our universities. I mean, there are universities that have farms. There are universities that are a mini nation of themselves. I mean, what are they doing with the idea?
If you are blaming the university, let me make reference to the University of Lagos. Okay. For instance, how much land does the University of Lagos have that it will be embarked on farming? Do they even have enough land to build hostels for the students, talk less of going to farming? So they don't have lands. I'm not holding brief for them. But what I'm saying is that the government, everything begins and ends with the government. If the government itself has foresight, it will put preventive measures in place. The government itself is corrupt. So how can you accuse somebody of corruption when yourself you are involved in corruption? These are the issues.
You see, Nifemi, when we blame the university system, okay, I want to ask you a question. I was in Nigerian University for a while. I studied mathematics, computer science. I didn't get to step into a computer lab until my 300 level. And when I got there, the operating system on those computers, far back as 99, 2000, was MS-DOS. As at that time, there was Windows 5 or 6. And programming language was still taught Fortran, COBOL. When, as at that time, there was SQL, there was Java. Now, who do you blame for such retrogressive, outdated syllabus and teaching aids? And these are the things ASUU are asking for. These are part of the things ASUU as a body is asking for. Now, you see, it is criminal and it is grossly immoral that anytime we come to the table to demand something, that's when we now activate your thinking or thought process like we are corrupt.
They bring up issue of corruption.
Because is it that everybody that comes up against this administration is corrupt? It should stop.
Let's take a couple of messages. Saliu from Abuja, ASUU had not been fair to us. I think they're just taking things easy with the federal government, with this government. I support the strike as a student of Nasarawa University. Thank you for your contribution.
So, if Aregbe Shola's son, Kabiru, or Ajimobi's daughter, what have you, is in Lautech, would they allow you to go on like this?
I think we have to be objective with our criticism of the situation of ASUU. When you look at some of the leaders of this institution, they are more corrupt than the politicians that you're nailing. Ibadan, UI, I guess, recently went on strike, and the strike was due to corrupt practices by the management of the institution. And mind you, those demands cannot be reached because those seeking aid are doing such in partial fulfillment of their self-interest. That's DC from Lagos. I'm afraid my panelists totally disagree with you. Buhari is biased for not delegating full power to Osinbajo. Should he have done that, ASUU wouldn't have embarked on strike. That's Silas IG Jr. from Oju in Benue State. My name is Lucky Didi from Lagos. ASUU is corrupt because the government is corrupt. Let's begin to look at the impact of this incessant strike action on the quality of education and the quality of graduates that our university produce. Someone recently talked about the fact that if ASUU continues like this, our graduates will not be taken any seriously outside the shores of this land. And it's already happening. It's already happening that you say, oh, you're a graduate from Nigeria, but then they want to look you again to be sure that you really are capable of doing what you have said. What is the way forward at this time for ASUU?
The situation is very, how will I put it, dicey, because we have gone way backward in terms of education, and it's not above what the government can remedy if those who are leading us will bring back their children to Nigerian universities, because as long as they have their children outside, they don't care, and that is why the budget to education is always very low, 3%, 2%, as against 26% as recommended by the United Nations.
So how do we pass this into law? Because there's a lot of outcry for restructuring and all of that. Should there also be an hashtag, let your children go to Nigerian schools?
You see, it can be passed into law if the National Assembly could come up with a bill, and they can find a way to infuse it. That gives you freedom of movement and water, and stipulates it there. But except public office holders shall, and once you see the word "shall," it's a must. Shall have this. It becomes a law. But I don't think we need to do that for us to know what is right or what is wrong. You see, if you cannot have an impact in how this room is arranged from outside, you have to be in it to know what to do, where you should move the tables and where you should move the lightings and things like that. So it is commonsensical. It's not rocket science. And if these guys are making it look like rocket science, they don't have any business in government and governance. They should pack their bags and get out. Now, to ASUU. You see, I won't blame ASUU. As long as you claim ASUU is, you see, because ASUU is not responsible for policing. I'll keep making my demands because, okay, now, somebody cites an instance of UI. It wasn't the federal government or Nigerian police that initiated the strike action in UI. It was the lecturers that felt this is wrong, and they shouted, and they went on strike. The VC of FUNAB, or what have you, was it the chancellor, what have you, was arrested by AFCC investigator, probably with the vice chancellor, and it's still ongoing. So why couldn't they spread that across board? Why should it be now when ASUU is making some genuine, sincere demands? Because whether you like it or not, I remember before I came to the university, lecturers are like church rats. After the first agreement, that was when they were motivated that you could see them come to class. That's when they were buying cars. That's when they could even afford to buy cars, and that's when they had access to good life.
Let's take some
because if a man is not motivated, he can't give his best.
Over the years, ministers of education have several times been picked from universities. Why didn't they solve all these problems? Even as we speak, the Minister of State, Professor Nwuka, is from the university. All right, that's an anonymous viewer. If 40 billion naira of our budget was earmarked for only the presidency, what is 10 billion naira For ASUU, that's Francis in Just. Thank you for your contribution. Thanks to Charlie Boy, that's the beauty and result of hashtag Amumudondu. We're expecting our president, Abang from ECOM. Do you agree that the president's return is a function of Charlie Boy's protest?
I don't think so.
No, he played a role.
If
You
he has
cannot
not
made
been,
him. No, he
if he
played
has
a
not
role.
been declared fit,
No, let me
there's no way
no,
we
Victor.
will-
Let me say
will be
because
asked to come.
he played a role because at the point they felt they were going away with the can I say the joke on somebody asked the president that we are not all under a spell. We either resume or resign. Whether you like it or not, that action played a role in him trying to come back. Because for a very long time they just kept quiet and they just tossing us around and just giving us handouts of information. He spoke, he issued a statement, he waved, you know.
All right, so there's another viewer here that agrees with you, Yemi. Joseph from Kaduna says the sudden return of the president is prompted by their protest, and so I'm not expecting any positive change in this administration. Joseph, why are you so pessimistic? Come on, show me some hope. Francis from Agbara, APC has failed majority of Nigerians. Mass loss of jobs, unemployment on the rise. They lie to us. There's God, oh, you should step aside. God bless Nigeria. All right, so another issue that the president is likely to be tackling when it comes back today, hopefully, is the Kaduna Declaration. So a couple of youths came together and gave Nigerians of Igbo extraction living in northern Nigeria 3 months ultimatum to leave, and that ultimatum will expire on the first day of October. Now, recently at a security summit at the Security Summit of the National Economic Council retreat on Thursday rather, in Abuja, the acting president has vowed now to treat anyone caught in spreading hate speeches in the country as